So good afternoon. My name is Muriel Noddle, and I'm the Executive Director of the Fayette Chamber of Commerce and the Redstone Foundation, and I am so happy to see all of you here today. I'm so excited to see everyone. The attendance and participation of our members speaks volumes about your desire to see our beautiful county grow and prosper. I want to take just a minute before we start and draw your attention to the sponsors of today's event. We are able to have this type of valuable programming because of the businesses who step up and support the work we do. Please help me in thanking them. To give you a quick overview of the program today, we will first hear from our friend Marios Kritiotis. Yeah. So I said it right. It's good, but not with the Greek's pronunciation that he does so well. So you have to hear that. Marios is the Director of Policy at Salvo Strategies, and I'm so excited to have him with us today. This is one of those conversations that I find interesting. I don't know if I want to ask this question, but how many, I'm a little worried, how many of you know that the county actually has a lobbying firm that works for them? Just a few. Marios has a good conversation to share today. All right, I'm excited for you guys to hear from him. Following him, we will hear from representatives. We have Mitchell Henderson here and Jared Nagorski. They are from the federal offices, from Fetterman and Reschenthaler's office, and so they have a few gems to share with us. Following them, we'll hear from our commissioners and then from our state-level representatives. So we do have we've asked them to prepare some introductory information and share some information, and if we have time, we will ask them a few questions about some current events, things that are going on in the county right now. So just kind of to give you the lay of the land. I think that's all I have at this point. So without further ado, allow me to introduce to you our good friend, Marios Kritiotis.
All right, let's hear it from Muriel one more time in the chamber. This is a fantastic event. We're really lucky to have actually a chamber this active, and I'll get into why. I want to talk about a couple of the groups that we represent, but really thankful to have Muriel on our team, and they do a fantastic job. Actually, I shouldn't say they make my job easier, because then maybe the commissioners will fire me. So I'll keep that to myself, except I just admitted it out loud. So, but my name is Marios Kritiotis. I'm the Director of Policy for a company called Salvo Strategies. We are a lobbying firm, among other things. So my title, Director of Policy, it's just a fancy way of saying that I'm a lobbyist, and I don't really have any other skills whatsoever. I've worked in government relations just over 16 years. My boss, Vanessa, who actually is a Fayette County resident, or not a resident anymore, but she was born and raised in Hiller. She likes to specify, not Brownsville, Hiller. I had Brownsville in here, actually, and she scolded me. So there is a difference. As someone I grew up in Brighton Heights, which is different, so we felt the same way about the north side. We were like, whoa, we're not north side, we're Brighton Heights. So I feel her pain. But we are a 100% woman-owned lobbying and consulting firm based in Pittsburgh. And like I said, with Vanessa having Fayette County roots, it's like a huge part of who she is. And by kind of osmosis, a huge part of who we are as a firm. And actually, Muriel was joking about the name pronunciation, but I actually think Fayette County, you guys share a similar trait to the Greek American community, is that like anybody who's from Fayette County who leaves, right? You all know the other Fayette Countyans, and you can kind of keep track of who's from Fayette County. And when somebody from Fayette is successful, it's like a win for the whole community. And I think that's rare. I think that's like a really rare bond that I think we should all be proud of. So give yourselves a little pat on the back for that. But we started about 9 years ago, and we're lucky enough that Fayette County was one of the first groups, the Redevelopment Authority with Andrew French and the commissioners, to give us kind of some marching orders. We were at a bigger firm. Vanessa had this vision of creating kind of like a more boutique type of lobbying and consulting, not just lobbying, procurement and strategy and all these other kind of like corporate communications has become a big thing of what we do. But she mercifully kind of took me along for the ride, and I've been here ever since. But Since then, we've represented companies from across the spectrum of sectors, from manufacturing to tech, nonprofits, energy, communications, kind of all over the place, big, small. We've got Fortune 100 companies. We've got small housing nonprofits that we're trying to get some stuff. Actually, Andrew's been helping us, so shout out Andrew French. But the root of lobbying, lobbyist is kind of a negative. I don't really know when historically it became a negative connotation. Actually, the word lobbying stems from in the way back in the day. That there would be advocates, It's a kind of a hidden part. We hear a lot about the First Amendment, right, in the Constitution. Part of that First Amendment is you have a right to petition your government. And so way back, there would be advocates that would hang out in the lobbies of the hotel rooms and then in the lobbies of the Capitol building. And as representatives would, or, agency, chiefs would come in, they would, be like, hey, while we're walking, let's chat. And so this lobbyist, phrase started to come about. And it might have been maybe in the 90s, and, there was this kind of like negative, like lobbyists or bad. But really, I think everyone benefits from a lobbyist. And I think a lot of, organizations, you have a lobbyist, and you just might not know it. YMCA, we were just talking about, the National has a big lobbyist, AARP. AARP actually has one of the they're a tough lobbyist to deal with, as anyone who's worked with them before. They have a really strong force. But really, it's about people, and it's about, for us, it's about connecting the right people. And, so you do have to tend to be a little bit of an extrovert. You have to be a little bit of a pain sometimes. You have to badger people, but I think the common thread of anyone who goes into this kind of service, and this goes to our elected officials too, who I don't know how you do it. I genuinely don't. But you have to be fascinated by people. And you have to be motivated by helping people. And that's what we try to do. We try to be the voice for our clients because they have other things to do. They've got businesses to run. They've got roads to pave. They've got steel to make. They don't really have time to yap all day, but I do. I have all the time in the world to yap. So it's been a wild ride, and it's not for everybody, but I do think it's just extremely fulfilling. And I'll get into a little bit of the work we do in Fayette. I don't want to get too far because I know our clients and our elected officials want to share that. But a couple of the things that we've done, I'm really proud of. We crafted and passed on behalf of Aurora, which is an autonomous vehicles company based in Pittsburgh. We created the bill that legalized and regulated autonomous vehicles and driverless cars. So there, a lot of trepidation. This is a new technology that people are uncomfortable with, and it's still, something that's being developed. So it was a really interesting sell because it was like we weren't saying like, look, we're going to hit the switch here and every car is going to drive itself. I wish that was the case. I would have been more productive on my drive down the turnpike today, but. So it just became a really interesting pitch, and it became something that we're really proud of. We've raised the cap on both the Neighborhood Assistance Program and the Fair Housing Tax Credit programs, which all of the legislators in this room voted for, so thank you for that. We've helped bring FiOS and 5G to Western Pennsylvania. We've helped municipalities create a network of communication with utilities companies on behalf of Columbia Gas and NiSource. And we've done a bunch of stuff for Fayette County, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I thought we could just do a quick refresher, a little civics lesson. I was going to bring my guitar and do the I'm Just a Bill song, but anybody who's watched any C-SPAN knows that is not how a bill gets made now. But just a quick, and I'll focus on the state. I tend to do a lot of state. We do also do federal and local. We actually have been really busy with local governments. Local governments are the heart, I think, of all public policy. All politics is local, being the famous quote. But so it's very vital to know your local governments and to work with them. But on the state, there are 253 members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. 203 of them are in the House, and there are 50 senators. So any idea, any seed of an idea that a client has, We need 102 people to agree that that's a good idea in one chamber. We need 26 from the other chamber. And then after all of that, which that process is often years long, we need the governor to actually sign the bill, which they can not. They can veto it. There's obviously a process with that. So some of you may know we have a very, very thin Democratic majority in the House. We have a slightly more robust Republican majority in the Senate, but not too bad. I mean, still got to work with the other side of the aisle. And then we have a Democratic governor. So it's a very divided government. And I think that actually provides an interesting opportunity for middle ground. And I think these last couple of years, we've really seen, on the federal side, a certain type of political strife trending. And in the state, we've been a little insulated by that. And I think there's a lot of things to be proud of that your state government has done. I mean, it's really been busy, and it's been pretty civil for the most part, right? I think so. But so getting to those numbers is no small feat. It takes a lot of coalition building, and it takes a lot of compromise. And you all, everybody who lives in Fayette, and I'm not just saying that because they're in the room, but you are spoiled rotten because you actually have 3 of the best, and I'm not just saying that, the best legislators on the state that I know. And Senator Stefano is the chair of a very influential committee, and I blinked and you're like a senior member now. I remember you're walking around saying you were going to run, and I was like, this guy's crazy. Well, I don't know why he would do that. And now, extremely senior member of that institution. Both Representatives Warner and Grim Krupa are on the Approps Committee, and anybody who watched those hearings, watch them take the administration to task on behalf of Fayette County, really just pushing for infrastructure, and a fair shake for services that this region really, really needs. So, thank you all for continuing to represent not just Fayette County, but really all of Western PA, and that kind of leads me to. One client I just wanted to highlight, because a lot of people in this room have actually signed on in support of this, but one of our clients is U.S. Steel. You may have read in the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or something, there's this tiny little transaction going on. It hasn't turned any of my hair. My hair was jet black before December last year. But so I thought maybe we would just very quickly highlight this deal and where we are, because first off, the Fayette County Chamber signed on to the amicus brief that we're challenging the CFIUS ruling on this. The commissioners have been just super open in meeting with the executives from Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel, as well as the legislature. I mean, everyone's been, and businesses here have supported it as well and signed on. So for all of you, the update right now is we still believe, and we're still advocating, that transaction is the best transaction for Western PA. It's the only deal that would guarantee investment in the Mon Valley. And that, for us, from the start with U.S. Steel, that was really the beginning. That's what we knew that the Mon Valley Works needed a new hot strip mill. We knew that we needed new, carbon mitigation there. And the Nippon deal is the only deal that guaranteed they will retrofit those facilities and keep those jobs in the Mon Valley. And they were the only ones that guaranteed that the headquarters would remain in Pittsburgh. We did not get that guarantee from the other potential buyers. So we are still pushing the deadline for the CFIUS. We've legally kind of challenged the ruling. That deadline's up in the summertime. In the meantime, we are communicating with the president, trying to get local support, trying to get local folks to let him and his administration know that this really is the best deal for Western PA. So that's where we are. Hopefully I'll have something more concrete. Maybe we'll do maybe at a summer golf outing, I'll have better news on that one, but that's kind of where we are. And it's been fun, to say the least. But so much of what we do for our clients involves the strategy, aligning them, finding the right. Okay, so here's the issue. We want broadband. Okay, well, let's find the right stakeholder in government, state, federal, whomever. Align their interests, align their personalities. There's a lot of different personalities in government, and figuring out the best and easiest route to kind of get a bill passed. Like I said earlier, it's quite arduous these days. And so for Fayette County, it's another place where you're very spoiled because, much like your legislators, your commissioners are extremely dialed in. They are very organized. I mean, I've worked with a lot of counties and either lobbying them or helping them. And this crop is so organized. And I think that's because there's a lot going on here, right? Southwestern PA has always been, the story's always been that we kind of have this little renaissance going on. And, there's been ups and downs within that. But you're right in the middle of it down here. And your commissioners are hustling, to say the least. And we've got, whether it's, Commissioner Vasides with the business park, trying to get jobs here. Chairman Dunn with the Sheepskin Trail and trying to get Fayette on the cutting edge of energy and resource, independence. Commissioner Lohr trying to get this airport, modernized so that we have a new class of aircraft to come here and a new batch of kind of commerce that can come with that. So they're all part of this. We could not do it without them, honestly. They're just so terrific. And we also couldn't do it. I have to highlight Aspire Grant Development. So that's the grant side of what we do. There's a little shop called Aspire. Michelle Beener, many of you may know, and her staff, Brooke Sheeler, who does a lot of work out here. They are, they're not here, are they? Is Michelle here? Okay. I would make her stand up or something, sorry. I wanted to embarrass her, but never mind. They are, they just have their finger on the pulse of grants in a way that I've never seen anything like it. They're just so good at opening new streams of revenue. They're so clued in. I just was on the phone with Michelle, and I'd pull over to write down a couple new grant programs that she just so happened to discover that day. And so their kind of role in this is they locate a program, and they say this is what we need to do. We begin to communicate with the powers that be why this is so important to Fayette County, and together we're able to raise a ton of money. I mean, we $5.5 million in funding from the last year. Just in federal funding this year, there's $10 million pending in federal funds, as well as $3.75 in the former RAISE program. I think they renamed it, but RAISE was this program that. So we're talking lots and lots of money, lots of things moving, and I was going to delve into the priorities, but I think I'd rather have the commissioners talk about their individual ones. So I think I just want to touch on one thing, and it's the root of what we do, what we started to do with Fayette County, and that's housing, and that's building. And this is extended. We have clients, like I said, kind of cross everywhere. We have U.S. Steel, we have the Pittsburgh Foundation, we have Verizon, Columbia Gas, Aurora, a bunch of different kind of businesses. And the one, when the Redevelopment Authority started to get involved with us, they said, look, we're moving a lot of earth down here in Fayette County. We want to get a lot of jobs down here. We need housing. And it's not just new housing. I mean, it's easy, that's part of it. But we got to keep the old stock from crumbling. And the state has done a tremendous job with blight mitigation. They had a blight task force, the land bank law, all these sorts of things that are to kind of mitigate blight. And Andrew French, I'm calling you out again in a good way, had this idea in the middle of this where he said, they're making a land bank law. Why don't we have the redevelopment authority? We have a really robust and really active redevelopment authority. Why don't we just change the legal definition of the land bank so that the redevelopment authority can do this new thing that the state government made as well? We already have, we already check every box. And so Senator Stefano, this is the part that actually is the I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. He introduces a bill. It goes to Urban Affairs. We have a hearing. Sure enough, the committee thinks it's a good idea. A rare thing, by the way. Not that they think your ideas are good, just any idea is good. And it was very complex. It took a lot of shuffling, a lot of kind of wheeling and dealing. There's this thing we won't get into called the trade list, where the Senate says these are the bills we want to pass, the House says these are the bills we want to pass, and then they just stare at each other, and it's like who blinks first. But it was on the trade list, and it made its way, and that's a law. I mean, that's a law that now the Redevelopment Authority has this tool. And I think it's so vital because, there's all kinds of different programs that kind of have blossomed from that blight mitigation force between FAIR, which I mentioned earlier, neighborhood assistance, whole home repair, which is like a different thing that we're trying to resurrect. I'll talk to you, Senator, outside about that. I'm kidding. But that's a really, really important thing. Affordable housing is the big issue right now, right? It's on the tip of everybody's tongue. But we got to make sure we're keeping, anybody who's tried to buy a house in the last couple of years, the inventory is really low. And we got to do what we can to keep those up, the old ones up. So that's a big thing. So, and you guys were on the front, literally on the forefront of that, this county. So congrats. But I will just conclude, and then we can, I'll pass this off. I think I got you warmed up for the electeds now. But just a couple lessons, I think, from lobbying that we can apply really to all business. And the first one is that the world is round. And so do your best not to make enemies, because one day they may be in charge of something that you, they may be kind of in your way. And so, and likewise, some of your best friends, like for me, when I was a young person in the Capitol moping around, there was this young guy following Representative Mark Gergely around. His name's Austin Davis. I said, hey, man, what's up? Gave him my card. That's the lieutenant governor now. So that's just what happens. The world is round, and you just never know where you're going to end up, and you never know where everyone else is going to end up. So try not to make enemies. And another thing is that the things that really matter take time. I think we're an instant society now. These phones, my client Verizon has just done too good of a job. I'll expense this trip to them. But we get everything so fast, right? 2-day Amazon shipping, this and that. I have people that cancel their orders because it's not going to come in, a day, right? And so, but the big things, the big issues that matter, they could take a generation to fix. And so you got to keep the long game going a little bit. We've become a little too reliant on quick fixes, And so, the other part of that is that it's all bigger than us, right? Every project is bigger than one person. And so, and with that, kind of the last thing is I think cynicism is the enemy. I think, we are a divided legislature. We somehow find a way to get a lot done. And I keep wondering why. And it's because no one really gets up and they do this, so I shouldn't say that they don't. But no one's really getting up trying to get sound bites for their Facebook page or whatever. They want people that we're electing right now, they want to get stuff done. They're kind of the product of this culture of really cynical, attacks. And so I would say, we find that middle ground. We don't approach the table, cynically or knowing that it's going to fall apart. If you really try and you look for the people who are really trying, they're out there. And again, we're lucky here because we have quite a few of them in this room, which you'll hear from now. So I will shut up and I will pass the mic to Muriel. Or who's next? Oh, you're next. Okay, so there we go. Thank you. I'm around if anybody has any questions. And I wasn't allowed to say so. If you really want the rumors of Harrisburg, just come see me afterwards. I'll give you the good stuff.
As would only be appropriate, a Fayette County T-shirt and a Fayette County magnet.
All right.
Yeah. Wear it proudly. And I don't think Vanessa has one yet, so she might try to steal it. Yeah. I think Vanessa said, I want one of those, but I haven't gotten her one yet, so.
She's not getting mine.
She's not getting yours. Okay, that works for me. Thank you, Marios. Working with this firm, working with the commissioners, with the county, absolutely incredible to be able to have conversations and to know that the priorities that the commissioners and our state reps put forward are just, they're fighting for us every single day. So y'all need to appreciate what they do. Give Marios and Salvo Strategies another round of applause. All right, switching gears a little bit. We do have some folks here with us today from our federal offices. With us here today are Mitchell Henderson and Jarrett Nagorski from Senator John Fetterman's office and Congressman Reschenthaler's office. And I know they would each like to say a few words, so why don't you both come up and then you can take turns. All right, that works.
I will make mine quick, but I just want to thank the Chamber and Muriel for inviting the Senator and his office to this beautiful luncheon. It's an honor to speak with you all today. The Senator is looking to build bridges and find common ground in the 119th Congress. Housing, cost of living, and rural health care are just a few of these issues that he's prioritizing. Places like Brownsville, Uniontown, and Connellsville are forgotten communities, or those that, as an office, we are focusing on. These are our communities that folks in DC have not paid as much attention to. Just recently, the Senator helped to secure over $3.5 million in federal funding for the Bridging Connellsville Transportation Alternatives in the Laurel Highlands. This funding will build on the immense work done by local officials and folks heading the Gap Trail. Projects like this show a dedication to the diversifying and bolstering of our small businesses and local businesses. We must reinvest in our former mill towns to bring manufacturing back home and make stuff here. Last year, the Senator, along with Congressman DeLuzio, launched the Make Stuff Here agenda to find solutions to bolster our light and heavy manufacturing. This includes tax incentives, strategic tariffs, and protecting a worker's right to organize. Things have become as chaotic as ever down in DC, but Senator Fetterman is committed to working with anyone and delivering for Pennsylvanians. Thank you.
So that's why the Senate guys get paid a little bit more than the House guys. I'm Jared Nagorski with Congressman Reschenthaler's office. Unfortunately, the congressman is still down in D.C. As he said, things are a little bit chaotic down there. But the congressman is committed to doing what we can to bring as much of the federal dollars that we have available to us to the district and directing those to the best programs we can find. And part of my job and part of Sean Conway's job as we go out in the district is to help identify what those projects are and advocate for them. So if you guys have things that you think that we can be supportive of and can be helping you, come to our office, contact our office and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do to help you. And that can range from anything. I mean, we have supported projects in Fayette County, I know, up and down the boards, and we are currently and actively working to find more. So please come find me if you have anything you want to talk about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I say this a lot. I say this at ribbon cuttings a lot. When we do a ribbon cutting, typically the folks, it's a process. We get into a circle, and then everyone who is there from the local office and state offices, they all get a chance to speak at a ribbon cutting. And it's interesting as we go around the circle because one after another is like, we're here for you. We're here for you. The office is here for you. We have people for you. And then it's my turn again, and I say what's so very important, and that is that none of that is lip service. It's reality. So when these two gentlemen say that they are at the offices, they're on the phone, they're ready to hear from you, they truly mean they're ready to hear from you. We had Leadership Fayette this morning, just over in the other room, and today was Government Day. And we did listen to the I'm Just a Bill. So we didn't just listen to it, we watched it, we sang it. So that's why everybody laughed when you said that. We're like, we could show it to you. But during that conversation, once we talked about the levels of government and how it works, that was one of the things that I said that is so very important and the reason why we're here today. And that is that every person in this room has the ability to affect our laws. Because these people that you will hear from next, not only from the federal level, but our commissioners and our state level reps, they genuinely want to hear from us. They need to be able to know what's on your mind, what's important, so that they can make the right decisions for us. I don't know how to say that any more boldly. So as you listen today, and they talk about some of their priorities, and they introduce themselves, and when our state level folks talk about the committees that they sit on, you need to think about what your priorities are, and then open a conversation with them. That is so very important. Okay? So yes? Yes. Okay. So we're going to move from here on to our elected officials, both local and state. And so first I would ask for our commissioners to come forward. Commissioner Chair Scott Dunn, Commissioner Vice Chair Vince Vicides, Commissioner Secretary Dave Lohr.
So, if you don't know me, my name is Scott Dunn. I don't feel like I'm a seasoned commissioner, but apparently I'm told I am, so I guess I am. I do want to follow up a little bit with Marios and Salvo Strategies. He short-sold what they do for us. And in the last week, Commissioner Vicides and I went to Washington, D.C., and because of Salvo Strategies, we met personally and individually with Senator Fetterman, Senator Dave McCormick, and Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, and had personal discussions with them. No other county does that. Every other county, it was for the NACO conference, which is the National Association of Counties. All the other counties from Pennsylvania, they get to go talk to them en masse, and we get a personal audience, and that's because of Salvo Strategies. And so the question is, does that work? And as Mario said, we have in 2025 in the federal budget about $14.5 million. So that's for various projects in Fayette County. That includes water infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, some tourism things, some park things for some of our cities. That includes, let me see, housing. And so everything that we're trying to do, we have a partner in the federal government, and we get that personal attention because of Marios. One other thing that they do is they have contacts with corporations. He mentioned corporate communications. So last year we had an issue with CSX trying to get somebody to answer the phone at CSX for a lowly Fayette County commissioner, and it wasn't happening. And I reached out to Vanessa and said, can you backdoor somebody at CSX and have them contact me? And within a week, somebody was contacting me. So it's not only important to get our legislators and to know them, but it's also for all this communication with everything that we're doing. So with that, I also want to recognize that FAPEN is in the room. Where you at? Raise your hand. All right, and so I'm going to not talk a lot about what we do with FAPEN, but right now we have a housing task force in conjunction with FAPEN, and they are also working diligently to bring manufacturing jobs to Fayette County. And I know everything that it's all behind the scenes, but they're working really hard, and we appreciate your effort. So I just want to recognize that FAPEN's in the house. Third thing that we're working on is agriculture. We want to make sure that we promote Fayette County agriculture, and we're doing that in two things. Tomorrow morning from 9 to 12 is our agricultural roundtable at the Fayette County Fairgrounds. This is the 8th one that we've held in conjunction with the Fayette County Farm Bureau. Tomorrow's topic will be wildlife versus farming, and everybody knows that that's a major issue, not only in Fayette County, but statewide. So that's tomorrow from 9 to 12. And I also wanted to announce today that the commissioners, in working with the Chamber of Commerce, are going to be starting a website and an app, and it is for local agriculture to consumer, so that if you are a shopper and you're shopping for your groceries, you're going to have a place to find out where farmers are selling their meat and their eggs and their produce and their dairy products, so that we want our farmers to thrive, and if we can have more of our consumers shop with our farmers, then we keep that money locally and everybody benefits. So that's coming out. Thank you, Muriel, for that, and that you will be seeing stuff on that. The fourth is education. Marios mentioned a little bit about that. This is ongoing. This is constant. This topic changes rapidly. And so we keep putting ourselves in front of people. So this week, Fayette County representatives and Fay Penn went to meet with People's Gas and the Energy Innovation Center in Pittsburgh. And we talked everything energy, natural gas, the electric grid, advanced manufacturing, data centers, and microgrids. And for everybody that doesn't know, microgrid is on-site power generation away from the grid, and you're producing your own electricity. And my question when I go to these people who are way smarter than I am about energy and natural gas and all this is this possible in Fayette County? One of the data centers has places in Zurich, Vienna, Osaka, Melbourne. I said, you're going to tell me this company is going to add Fayette County, Pennsylvania to this list? And they're like, can you produce power in Fayette County? We're like, yeah. They're like, they will come to Fayette County. So I keep giving these people the opportunity to tell me that's not possible here. Nobody is doing that. So we keep going. So a data center, one data center would be over $1 billion of investment in Fayette County. So we keep moving, and we that's part of what we're doing. We have been aggressive. I know sometimes in Fayette County you hear, sometimes like every day you hear something negative about your Fayette County commissioners. In Harrisburg and other places, Fayette County is known as a place that's hungry for growth and is really going at it and is aggressive. So I want you guys to hear that from us. The last thing I wanted to talk about is we have some friends here from Penn State, Fayette.
We are Penn State. Thanks, Scott.
I think we're all probably going to touch on this. I'm going to touch on something. I didn't go to Penn State. I could sing Country Roads for you right now. But we have to have a 4-year facility for education here in Fayette County. It's not an option, and again, I'm not going to tell you from a person's standpoint, from the kid or the staff. I'm going to tell you from economic development. If I go to a company who wants to come here, and I say Westmoreland has colleges, Allegheny has colleges, Washington has colleges, Greene County has colleges, and West Virginia they have colleges, they're going to look at us and go, we should just go there then. We have to have a 4-year institution in Fayette County. And the other thing too, as we talk about all the great things that are in Fayette County. We talk about falling water and Ohio Powell and the Great Allegheny Passage and all the great things that we have here. We also have a poverty problem. We don't shy away from working on this poverty problem. There is a way out of that, and the way out of that is higher education. There is a direct correlation between the attainment of higher education and your propensity to live in poverty. And it's very simple. The numbers bear it out. The more educated you are, the less likely you are to live in poverty. And to remove a institute of higher education from one of the most impoverished counties in Pennsylvania would not be good. It would, and I can't state that enough. But I do want to say, I'm 7 minutes in, I'm told, and I apologize, but these are important things. Please don't do that again. The other thing is, we were 5 years ago the second poorest county in the state of Pennsylvania. All those numbers that we talk about are moving in the right direction. We are doing things right. It doesn't happen overnight, but we are trending there, and we can. I continue to tell you that the work won't stop. So I'll let you go. Sorry, I was 7 minutes.
Thank you very much. I wanted to talk today about our priorities and what we did in Washington, D.C. last week. As Scott said, we traveled to the NACO conference, and we go every year to that, and then we have a day where we go on Capitol Hill, and we meet with our congressmen and our United States senators, and we can't thank Salvo Strategies enough. Like Scott said, we kind of were the envy of the County Commissioners Association. We had private meetings to speak about our priorities, and all the other commissioners across the state met as a group to talk to the same people, so we had a real leg up there. Plus, we gave John Fetterman, our senator, a hoodie, the kind that he likes, and he was real happy about that. Fayette County branded. I really appreciate this opportunity here. Thank you very much, Muriel, for putting this on. This is a great event. When I went up there, I think we got a lot accomplished, and I even came back with a case of the flu, so I'm a little weak but I'm not contagious. It's been 10 days, so. But if my voice doesn't hold out, I apologize. But, you know, we go up there, we're focused. We meet several times before we decide on, you know, what we're going to put in. But this is the booklet we give to our legislators. Thank you. And it's very detailed about our requests and what our priorities are. And this year it was even a glossy booklet. Really, really looked good. It made Fayette County look like they really had their act together. As we've been doing this for years, and it's paid off. We've gotten tens of millions of dollars. So our investment in a government relations lobbyist has paid off big for the county. But the number one priority, and we even mentioned it up in Washington, was we have to keep and save Penn State Fayette campus. This has to happen. And we talked to every one of those federal legislators and told them about our need there and how hard we're fighting to keep that campus here. And we've been working with the chamber to coordinate all this. Nobody's going out on different directions. We're all together, unified in what we're doing on social media and letter writing and online petitions. We're working together, lockstep. And I know all elected officials were asked. Dave's coordinating that to get a letter to the president of Penn State and the board of trustees. I wrote one the other day to the president. We're doing everything we can, and we're going to keep all the way working diligently to try to keep Penn State in Fayette County. It's just imperative, like Scott said. That was number one, but another priority has been a priority for me since 1996. I'm dating myself here. The Sheepskin Trail. We've gotten about 10 miles of it built. About 26 miles of it has some type of design or activity going on with it. We're on the other side of Point Marion right now, constructing a section of the trail. We did ask for $800,000 more for the trail to do one more section up there to try to connect into the cheat trails, which are several miles long, and that would really add to that to the length of the trail up there in Point Marion from the state line all the way down Nyland Road, connecting into the cheat trail. So that's our request there. We're also working to finish it in the city of Uniontown. Hopefully that'll be done next year. We have a good plan going into that. Second thing is the Thompson's Crossing Business Park. It's been a great success, our business park, Fayette County Park on Route 40. It's created over 1,000 jobs, 45 businesses, and $115 million in private investment. We're almost out of land over there, so a couple of years ago we purchased a piece of land from the Sisters of St. Basil off of Northgate Highway, off of Old Pittsburgh Road, and we're going to ready to go for phase one of that project. We had acquired $3.5 million in RCAP money from the governor and the legislature, thanks to Senator Stefano, and we're ready to break ground on that. Dirt will be flying very shortly, but now we're looking past that to try to get funding for phase two. So we talked about phase two and how we'd like to connect it up to Route 40, which makes Thompson's Crossing the name, and after J.V. Thompson that owned that land at one time. And hopefully we can get some funding. We talked about EDA funding for that project. We also talked about the need to we have a great plan for broadband. It all came together. We invested almost $10 million, and we did a lot, and we did a loop on the western end of the county. But there's 8,000 people that could potentially need broadband. Either they're underserved or have no service at all, and we need to get them, give them the opportunity to get broadband and connect up to the World Wide Web. With this BEAD money, that's the federal money, they have a little under $1 billion to distribute in Pennsylvania. We had two major companies, Comcast and Verizon, stepped up to the plate, and they're ready to give us, they submitted applications. So we told them how imperative not to cut the BEAD money, because the BEAD money will help us get this done, and everybody will be served in all areas of Fayette County, and we'll have a second to none broadband effort. And so the funding's the key. If the BEAD money stays, we can get this done. We have a great plan going into this. Also, we talked about Route 21, expansion of that. Right now we have a study going on. We got $2.5 million from our Congressman Rushenthaler to study it in conjunction with Greene County. And now we're ready. Hopefully, the local engineering firm SPK is doing the study. We'll know what we need to do to expand it, hopefully to 4 lanes, and because it's one of the most dangerous highways in Pennsylvania, fatality-wise. And it could be an economic development corridor. So hopefully in the next year, this study will conclude, and then we could start focusing on getting construction money. The right-of-way is purchased in Fayette, so I'm going to push really hard for that. I'm going to be chairman of the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission in 2026. That'll be a priority to me, and also the completion of the Mont-Fayette Expressway into Pittsburgh. The SPC, if you all don't know, it's the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the region. And there's 30 commissioners on there and the mayor of Pittsburgh. And I'll be chairman of that next year. So I'm vice chairman right now. And one of the things Scott touched on, and we need housing in Marios. We are short of houses in Fayette County. We could use 3,000 of them tomorrow, mid to upper level housing. So in order for us to grow our population in the county, we need to get that really revved up and building as much as we can. We have a task force that's working with FAPEN is helping us. They help us on a lot of economic development. They're also helping us with the housing. And that's about it. We have our priorities. We stick to them, and along with all the other stuff we do as commissioners, running a county with 620 employees and making sure county services are provided that are mandated by law. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I don't have notes. I go off the cuff. I am a Penn State alum, so that means, and I know there's West Virginia alums in here, and there's also Pitt, but because this is so important for our county, we are Penn State. We are Penn State. Okay, it's a little bit better. No, it's once again, both of my fellow commissioners have said the same thing as far as about Penn State University. We probably don't even realize the exposure that we will have with our health and every other area of our lives if we see Penn State Fayette campus close. And I've reached out to all the elected officials and going to continue to do that, because I am asking for all elected officials to send back a letter to me. And the reason I'm asking that is because I want to carry, and Muriel's even said if the letter she gets, that she may turn them over to me, I'm actually carrying them by hand to University Park and putting them in the president's office. So the whole reasoning for that is because I've been in sales for almost 40 years now, and I know what it's like to get something in hand. It's important to walk in and present it to someone. One of my largest clients I ever got was because it took me 3 months, perseverance, to walk into that office every other week and hand them a brochure. That's the same concept that I'm approaching with Penn State University, with Fayette campus, is I want them to see that we want them here, we need them here, because just like the RN program, anyone who has to go to the doctor or go to the hospital, chances are you're going to have a nurse, an RN, helping you get through your problem from Fayette campus. Then the engineers, my cousin was one of the first students that was at Penn State for civil engineering. The school started in 1962 in Fayette County. He left here, I believe it was in 1969, after 2 years of engineering. They went to University Park. This campus has a long history here, and we can't afford to lose it. We just can't. So we need to battle together. We need to team as an army and go after this school to stay here. And I'm going to do my absolute best to do that. So once again, we are. Penn State. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've been working on, and I know many of you have heard me say this over and over, and it is the airport. I firmly believe that an airport is a key element to any economic development and any economic growth in a county. If you look at the Arnold Palmer Airport in, I believe it's 2022, the revenues brought into the county was like $322 million. That's a lot of revenue. And it's because of economic growth in there that they had a vision back when their airport was just like ours here at the Joseph Hardy Connellsville Airport. Their vision was to expand that runway, get things moving, make it happen. Right now, I have a possible, and as someone said, I think Mario said earlier, that it takes a long time in government to get things accomplished at times. This is one of those things. I've had the vision to try to get this runway started and expanded. And my goal right now is that we have someone that is very aggressive in getting it to 4,001 feet. 4,001 feet. 4,001 feet brings Learjets in. I know it's hard to imagine that we can't do it now, but the insurance industry is one of the biggest reasons for Learjets today. But 4,001 feet gives a door opener to bring Learjets in, corporate jets, things of that nature, so that we can actually transfer around. And I will tell you that there are businesses that are local right now. I know of at least three that are not just here in Fayette County. They're all across the country. One of them has 5 different locations on the northeastern coast now. Their base is here, and if they have to go to another one of those other businesses, the other one of their branches, they have to get in a car and travel. They have actually said to me many times, if they could get in a plane, they would actually travel in the plane and get there quicker. And by the way, get home at nighttime. That company is also looking at a branch in Baltimore and also in Washington, D.C. Another company has a branch in Texas, New York, Washington, D.C., and Florida. And they have to either travel to Pittsburgh or the Arnold Palmer Airport in Latrobe and catch a plane from there and fly elsewhere. We're losing this revenue, and we're also losing the opportunity for businesses to grow here and also to come here. And that's a big factor. That's why I've been so heavy on the airport over these years. And believe me, it does get discouraging when you get caught in the bureaucracy and all the other things that keep on saying no. And all those people that say no, they keep saying no. You can't do it. You can't do it. Well, no is just a thing for today. It's for me, my whole life in business. It's always been when someone has said to me no, that's just until tomorrow. And that's why I've been so persistent on this. And I do believe that I will see this through, that there will be an extension on that runway. And we will get it done. I know that we've approached legislators, we've approached the senators, we've approached everyone. It's in our plan book about the airport. And I will tell you that I will keep on slugging away at this thing until I get it done. I'm going to try my absolute best. And hopefully we can actually have that accomplishment take place. So that's the biggest thing that I'm working on. I will tell you that. But along with that, we do have in South Connellsville a gun club that we've had earmarked money for. Rich Bauer, before he left as DA, was able to get some earmark, and we're working with Guy Reschenthaler's office to have that funded and get that approach. Now, what that does is it expands the capabilities for our county to actually do the qualifications things for our services, like probation office and CYS and the state police or sheriffs, all of them. Everyone has access to this, and it's on the drive. We're almost there. We're almost to that finish line as far as signatures go. Looking forward to that, because it's another big step up for the county to be able to do that. It'll also help the gun club. It'll help them on their membership and expand their horizons. So there's a lot of things that we are working toward. I've been a commissioner for 9 years, and it's been a good 9 years. I'm proud of what's taken place, and with fellow commissioners, I believe that we have a future in front of us in Fayette County that is nothing but positive. We're heading forward. We're heading up. And I do believe that from all the 9 years that we've made the trips to Harrisburg and Washington, D.C., that's the message we've been giving. And all the agencies that are out there that help us, the developers, the housing in particular. I've talked to several of our local developers that are looking at possibly going for housing because those are issues. But I know that all of us working together, we're actually moving in the right direction. So thank you very much for being here. Muriel, thank you for the chamber. Appreciate it.
So I think what we're going to do is we'll let you guys take a break, relax. We're going to invite our state level reps up, and then we'll see time-wise what we have. I know that we do have a few questions, but let's kind of look at our time, and then we'll invite her up. Thank you again, commissioners. I have to say that from my work every day, working with county government, it is a pleasure to work with all three of these commissioners. I've been around a long time, 20-some years. And there have been all different kinds of boards of commissioners that I've worked with over those years. And this group is a pleasure. Always good group to work with. All right, so we're going to switch over now from local to state. And so I would ask Senator Stefano, Representative Grimm-Krupa, and Representative Warner to the front. There's a lot of Penn State going on up here. Same kind of a deal. What I'd like you all to do, which I think is really important, I think I mentioned it earlier, I would like you to introduce yourselves and talk about the committees that you're on. I think that's so important in the work that you do in Harrisburg. And then kind of, take a little bit of time, talk about what your priorities are, and then we'll circle back again. Okay? I'm going to cross in front of you first and get on the other side, if I can. Sure. There we go. Did I steal somebody's microphone? Are you all good?
Yes.
I did. I stole Ryan's.
Yes. So good afternoon. Yeah, we're wearing our Penn State gear. I got my Penn State tie on, and if you wonder, it's Penn State socks too. Oh. Yes. Well, it's important because this is the issue of the day that we're talking about, and I love the way we work here in the county, is we all gather together when we have an issue and we tackle it together, and that's what we're doing because we understand how important this campus is. You've heard it time and time again today, that our economic growth is shooting upwards. That pendulum is swinging back the other way. I want to see our population numbers starting to grow. And the opportunity that I can't even talk about, but I know that's coming this way, is going to do that. And it's very critical that we have an institution to address our education needs. And we have one that's here. It's been here in Uniontown since, I think 1934. Took a little bit of break after World War II. The campus then opened up in 65, 66, somewhere around there, has been there ever since, and I want that to continue on into the future. So I have a personal friend of mine that I'll be connecting with next week, and actually her first name is Neely, last name Bendapudi, the president of Penn State. I'll be meeting with her next week to discuss what I call the non-measurable metrics, the things that they don't know that we do here. We're going to be talking about that, things that don't end up on a spreadsheet, but are so important, especially for the tax dollars that you and I contribute. They go to these universities, they come back to us, and educate our people here for the jobs that are here. So it's very important. Continue the fight. We have lots of work yet to do, and we will all be doing our part as we connect in different, as I say, spokes of the wheel. We'll be connecting in different points, but we're all gathered and rolling in the same direction. So believe it or not, though, we were talking about the work that I've done. I'm in my third term, halfway through my third term already. Yes, I was thinking about that earlier. That can't be, but it is true. So it was a little over 12 years ago when someone asked me to run, and my first answer was, hell no. Why in the world do I want to do that? And I still ask that question every day. Why am I doing this? But it's for a very good reason, because I got tired of asking someone else to do something that I thought needed to be done, so I said, might as well do it myself. And as Marius was talking about, the chairmanship of Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure, that committee I've been looking at for 4 years. It took 4 years of work proving my worth throughout leadership that this is where I wanted to be because of the work that I've done. In my past life as a volunteer, when I first moved out to Bullskin Township, where I still live, and that was 30 years ago, I was voluntold to be on the sewage authority, and then they all backed away and let me stand out front and become the chairman. So I was chair of that for 15 years. Little did I know that was going to prepare me for my role here in the Senate or being chairman. This committee has oversight of the PUC, so that's anything dealing with utilities, water, wastewater, gas, electric, all those. And on the other side, because there's two parts of it, is licensure, and that's the 29 licensing boards of BPOA. Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, nursing, pediatrics, doctors, what else? There's so many boards. Podiatry, realty, surveyors, and the list goes on and on and on. So I'm working with them as well. So it's very, very focused on two different avenues. But my main interest right now, as we're rolling into this new session, which started January 7th of 2025, so this is 25-26 session, is looking at your energy costs, because they've been going nowhere but up. And we're working hard through this committee, holding hearings, breaking down what components are in that bill that you get, why it's high and why it's trending that way. We're working with the Environmental Committee and focused on energy issues. As we understand, and you've heard it time and time again, we have a crisis coming. Our generation has been going offline, and our new generation coming in is not at the level of our demand. For the first time in decades, when our demand had been softening, it's going nowhere but up. So we all know Economics 101. Decreased supply, increased demand raises the price. And you can see that at the PJM auctions. That's our regional transmission operator of 13 states. The number that goes out there for the generators to input into our market are going up to try to generate more interest in building generation plants. So we're in the middle of that, making sure that Pennsylvania is the prime spot. We have the energy. We have the land, we have the resources. We want the generation here so we can supply the energy needs. As you've heard of the data centers and AI that are coming, and they're knocking on our door right now, we want to be ready to go. And if you know anything about utilities and electrical distribution, if you're going to build a substation, it's a minimum of 5 years. So if you need power tomorrow, you're already 5 years too late. So you need to be planning now. So I'm thrilled to be part of this committee. to be leading it and meeting our needs, especially right here, because there's no reason we can't do everything we need right here. So that is my focus. Marius was talking about the bill for the land banks. That was one of the bills I had done. So I went back and I checked to see, after the last 11 years, that I had 19 bills become law. So we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of needs, and I hear them and I learn them right here. When I meet with you, we go to meetings, we hear about issues, we go back and we go change the law. Because the one thing I don't want to hear, and I hear it a lot, well, that's just the way we do it. Well, no, we got to go take a look and fix it, because what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. So we're going to be there to fix it. I also, on 5 other committees, I'm not going to go down the list, but I am on transportation, so that's critical. And state government, that's critical too for anything that's coming through that works with state government. Those are the main issues, aging and youth, and a couple others. I'm not going to go bore you with the details, and I know we're getting late. The last thing I want to point out before I turn off my microphone is, if you aren't connected to what we're doing in Harrisburg through our weekly newsletter, make sure you sign up. Just go to senatorstefano.com, click on the link for the newsletter, and we will update you every Friday, everything, the bills that are moving and the hot issues of the day. It's a short synopsis, but it keeps you in the loop, because that's what we want. We want everybody to be aware of what's going on so you can be part of the process. That's the best way for it to work. Thank you for being here, because this shows me your commitment to being engaged in your government. So thanks much.
Thank you, Senator. It's a beautiful day here in Fayette County. Beautiful socks, too. So I always say a surefire way to tell it's spring in Fayette County is that we have the legislator luncheon here with the chamber. And before we start, I do want to thank Mariel, and I want to thank the chamber, but I also want to thank the staff, because I know it's not just one person that puts this together. So thank you all very much for this great event that you guys put together every year. If I seem a little tired, if I talk to you and you've seen bags under my eyes, I am a little bit of an astrology nerd. And I stayed up last night. I did stay up to watch the lunar eclipse, which was really cool to see it under the telescope. But with that said, I do want to start off with an introduction, because there are new people in here, and I guess every year that I come here, I take for granted that everybody already knows who you are. Okay, so I am Ryan Warner. I am the state representative in Pennsylvania's 52nd district, and the 52nd district is basically northern Fayette County. Representative Krupa has southern Fayette County. I have northern Fayette County, which had just changed recently, because every 10 years we change our districts with the census, right? So previously I had part of Westmoreland County, and now I have all Fayette County, which I really like. I was born and raised here, born and raised in the Perryopolis area. So prior to being a state representative, I was a commercial project manager for a company called Siemens Industries in Westmoreland County. I worked on budgets and did a whole lot of boring stuff with Excel. But nonetheless, I gained a lot of experience working with different companies in the area, and I gained a lot of experience working with budgets. Prior to that, I worked in a sawmill. Our family has a logging company and a sawmill. So for a very long time, I worked in there. I managed to keep all my fingers, ran a lot of different machinery. I stacked lumber, and I always got to give a shout out to the logging and lumber industry, because it is very important and vital to not just the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but here in Fayette County. A lot of people do not know that Pennsylvania is the #1 producer of hardwood lumber in the entire country. And it is because we sit in the perfect temperate zone for hot and cold, and it is great growth for hardwood lumber. Prior to working in the sawmill, I was a student at the Pennsylvania State University at University Park. And prior to that, I was a student at the Pennsylvania State University Fayette campus, where I was honored and privileged to have a scholarship to play baseball. And I know that it was repeated by the county commissioners and Senator Stefano. I'm sure Representative Krupa to explain the importance of that, and I believe all three of us are alumni of that campus. So there is no understating the importance, not just to our community, but to us personally. That campus means a lot to me, and the growth of who I am as a person, not just to play collegiate athletics, but I probably wouldn't be here today because there was a Poli-Sci 101 class that sparked my interest in politics and public policy. And I give credit to that class and that professor for me being here today. With that being said, I do want to commend the county commissioners for their continuous work for moving this county forward. I've always been a huge advocate of getting this Mon-Fayette Expressway complete. So thank you, Commissioner, for pushing for that. I do think that that is so vital for our area. Transportation is huge. We sit in this amazing zone between Pittsburgh and Morgantown, and we have all these great assets and the expanse of transportation so that people from Pittsburgh can easily come here and people from here can easily get to Pittsburgh is so vitally important. As far as some of the legislation I'm working on, I'm going to cut some of it because we could be here for a long time if I discussed all my bills. One piece of legislation I will mention, because we work on things that affect the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but also locally. One piece of legislation I've worked on since I was a freshman is called the Taxpayer Protection Act, and that bill basically forces government to prioritize its spending. It would limit the rate of Pennsylvania's budget growth to the combined total of inflation and population growth in Pennsylvania over a 3-year average. So in other words, if our population went up 3% and inflation went up 3%, Pennsylvania would be able to increase its budget by 6%, right? So this isn't a foreign concept. There's a lot of other states that do it. It's just a way to keep things in check to make sure we prioritize our spending, which will bring me to my next point. And a bill that I have is to help out our fire departments, our veterans organizations, and a lot of our nonprofits, right? So these guys are held to some pretty stringent small games of chance laws, right? So for example, right now they can only take cash payments in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, even though we have all these different cash apps, various ways for these guys to collect money. I know we see it a lot, but technically they're not even allowed to go on Facebook and do live raffles. I have legislation that changes that and does various other things to make it easier for these guys to be able to raise money. I've stated this a million times, and I'll state it a million more. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, or somewhere in between. When we talk about what are things that our government should fund and what we should fund adequately, our first responders is one that everybody on every single step of the political spectrum will nod their head, yet these guys have to go out on a roadway on a quarter of a red light with a boot asking for money, which in the United States of America, the richest country in the entire world, I do not think is acceptable. I will fight for that until my very last day in office to make sure that our first responders are adequately funded. Another piece of legislation I have is a bipartisan bill. We have people on both sides of the aisle working on that, and that is to remove the state income tax on overtime and tips. I know there's a lot of national movement on that. We've been working on it in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania too. Another bill that I do want to mention is because this is stemmed from a local issue here. Unfortunately, it's not a good one. Many of you have heard about the child torture case in Brownsville. There were unspeakable things that happened to a child there. Because of that incident, I had learned, working with the Attorney General's office, that there is no statute in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for child torture. Even though those individuals were charged with multiple crimes and will be going away to jail, there is no crime that they could be charged with just for torturing that child. Almost every other state in this union has a specific statute to criminalize child torture. We do not in Pennsylvania, and I'll continue pushing for that. The last one, I know I'm getting short on time here, so I'm going to skip a couple. I'll go one of the last ones, and I know that the nursing program at Penn State Fed is so important, and nurses in general are just so vitally important to this area and to health and healthcare in general. Again, so I am the co-prime on a bipartisan bill that will allow nurse practitioners full practice. There are currently 26 other states that allow this, and when we are short on people being able to get medical attention, I will continue to push for this and join the other states in this union that believe that that is acceptable. To finish up, look, I know I say this a lot, but everything that we do here in this county to move forward takes a team, right? There's no I in team. There's no I in Fayette County. There's not one person in this room, not one legislator, not one commissioner, no one from the federal government that's going to make this county better. It takes everybody. It takes the legislators, but it also takes this room of people, okay? And that's why we have seen progress in this county, and we will continue, because we have a great group of people working here together. And at Penn State, is Commissioner Laura, said the chant earlier, you know, at Penn State, we had always yell together, we are, and you follow up with Penn State. And you have 110,000 people in Beaver Stadium doing that, and you just have this sense of community, right? This sense of, yes, we're together, you know. But we are Penn State, but here together in this room, we are also Fayette County. We are Fayette County. If you look around, this is our county. We are the ones responsible for pushing this county forward, and we are the ones responsible for making this a better place for the next generation. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out here and joining us again to the chamber, all the legislators, and from the federal and county government. Thank you guys so much.
Hello. You guys all, anybody need a break? You all good? So for anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Charity Grimm-Krupa. I'm state representative for the 51st House District, which is Southern Fayette County. I just came out of my first term, and I have to say that both Representative Ron Warner and I just came out of 3 weeks of budget hearings with the appropriations committees. And that was really, really exciting. For the first time, although you're extremely busy in Harrisburg, you're extremely busy in your district office, and it might be the lawyer in me, but I was so excited to be involved with those hearings. I might have been the only person that was actually upset when they were over. But, you know, and yeah. So it was a wonderful opportunity to do a deep dive in issues with respect to every agency that participated in those hearings across the Commonwealth. And they gave each member of the appropriations, in theory, they gave each member 5, but we learned that we were limited a little bit on that, 5 minutes to ask questions. As an attorney, at 5 minutes, I was just getting warmed up. That was really a struggle for me, but that was why it was so important that you worked as a team with your appropriations committee to make sure that you were hitting all of the key issues. Now, I'm going to circle back to the Penn State issue because that is when I looked at the invitation from Muriel, that, you know, and it talked about, you know, hit on the things that are of the utmost importance to your constituents. Right now, Penn State is that issue. So maybe I should start there. So I started at Penn State at 15 through some funding through the Eberly Foundation. I was still in high school. This was before dual enrollment was a thing. But the Eberly Foundation, in their infinite wisdom, saw the benefit that our young students could have. So if you had a certain GPA and you didn't have attendance issues, whatever their qualifications were, they would pay for 2 3-credit classes a year. So through the Eberly Foundation's program, I was able to get enough credits that I was able to skip my senior
senior year of high school and start as a freshman at University Park a year early. And then through summer classes, I was able to really go through my Penn State experience quickly, which worked for me. Other people milk it and want to be there as long as they can. I wanted to do my education and move on. So I graduated from Penn State about a week after I turned 21. So totally different experience than a lot of people. But my daughter's in her third year of nursing at our Fayette campus right now. And I bring that up because Penn State is near and dear to my heart. But and everybody's, most people in this room probably have some connection, if not personally, through family or friends, to Penn State. But all the things that have been said today, Penn State Fayette campus is desperately needed in this area. It provides a wonderful learning opportunity in a 4-year programs, and it's a stepping stone to University Park if that student wants to go on to University Park. But it offers diversity and culture and arts to this area that we are blessed with things like the State Theater and wonderful drama programs, but the what's being offered at Penn State Fayette campus with respect to the arts is really a benefit to this area. But you have to go back even further than that and not just look at what our branch campus is doing for us. And first and foremost, my fight is for Penn State Fayette, but you have to recognize, too, there are other people across the Commonwealth that are very similarly situated as we are. I've got a really great, one of my favorite colleagues in the House is a representative named Jamie Barton that's from Schuylkill County across the Commonwealth, and he's in the same situation we are. And no community that is underprivileged, that desperately needs this lifeline for their students, they shouldn't be forced to fight this fight on their own. And I think it's a travesty that Penn State University is pitting their branch campuses against each other, rather than recognizing, rather than a time of uncertainty, because these areas are losing population, as is Fayette County, rather than doubling down on our branch campuses and investing in our branch campuses and using Penn State University and everything that it has to offer to improve the quality of life across the Commonwealth. We find ourselves in the desperate situation where we are really trying to undermine our brother and sister campuses across the Commonwealth, and that's really unfortunate. Now, I have introduced, I've circulated co-sponsor memos for 3 bills at the state level that deal with transparency and regional access and workforce development. And this isn't just a Penn State issue. I've been advocating, I recently introduced a bill about transparency for government funds. Every dollar of taxpayer funds, we as taxpayers should know exactly where that money is going. Penn State, one of the most affluent, wealthy universities across the globe, is looking down at one of its poorest regions and pretty much putting us on the chopping block. It's a David and Goliath fight. You probably heard me say that already. But I have a meeting scheduled with the president, and I'll take full credit with this. There was a scheduling issue with Senator Stefano, so I'm glad that he has his meeting scheduled. Representative Warner, I believe, is joining me in that, and I really look forward to the opportunity to look her in the eyes. And 5 days before the announcement was made that Penn State was officially going through this process, I had the opportunity to question the president in the budget hearings, and these were questions that I asked her. I advocated for Fayette campus, praised it, and was asking very specific questions about what the plans were for closure of the branch campuses. Was there going to be, if it came to it, a phase-out period? She was very vague. She was very evasive. Penn State gets $100 million of taxpayer funds every year. Collectively, the state-related university, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. There needs to be that transparency. And in my bills that I'm proposing, it's not just Penn State specific, it's for all the state-related universities. So that's what we're doing in order to fight this at the state level. I'm so very appreciative. I mean, Fayette campus, Fayette County, unfortunately, we do get a bad rap sometimes, but although we may be poor in the monetary sense, we are rich in spirit and we stick together. And I mean, it's like a family. You can squabble amongst yourself and maybe not speak for a while, but if somebody picks on your family, you're going to stick up for them. So that's my defense of Penn State, and I look forward to working with all of you on that issue. Back to the budget, though. One of the most alarming things about the budget, first and foremost, is how fiscally irresponsible it is. You're looking at increases in spending that not only are we going to drain the surplus, in a matter of few years, we are going to drain the rainy day fund. That in and of itself is not acceptable. But then when you add into the equation that part of the governor's proposed budget, and just so everybody knows, at the beginning of the year, the governor gives his budget address, and a lot of people think this is what is going to happen if you're not involved in politics. And that's not the case at all. It's basically the governor's wish list, his Christmas list, and then it really sparks the discussion and the debate about how the money is going to be spent. And then ultimately, the Senate and the House and the governor have to work together to come up with a final project. But his proposal is specifically based on an illegal revenue source. He is basing a significant part of anticipated revenues on recreational marijuana. Now, I'm guessing we've got a difference of opinion in this room about whether that should be legalized. I'm very transparent. I wear everything on my sleeve. I will be the most vocal advocate against it. For every, and the idea that you hear, the people that are advocating for it, is that it's going to generate all this revenue. If you look at states like Colorado, there are studies that for every dollar that is generated in revenue, there is $4.50 that it costs society in terms of things like addiction, traffic accidents, crime, truancy, homelessness, down the aisle. And frankly, and another thing that you'll hear from the proponents as well, our surrounding states are doing it. They're bringing it across the bridge. The testifier from the governor's office of budget, he actually used that. And I told him, I said, that reminds me of the old adage, if everybody's jumping off a bridge, are you going to go jump off a bridge? And anybody that has kids, I'm sure you've used that example. I wish that Pennsylvania could become the safe haven so that families that don't want their children to have easy access to this drug, that want to walk down the street without the stench of pot, are going to say, you know what, I'm going to Pennsylvania because I don't want to deal with that. So I think that the marijuana issue is offensive. I think that I think that it's not been properly vetted. Every opportunity I had in the appropriations hearings to ask the heads of these departments, for example, the commander of the state police, do you know what his response was when I asked him about his input? Well, he had not been brought to the table for those conversations. And I really tried to gear my questions. Guess what? There's no field sobriety test for marijuana usage. So if they have a driver that's suspected of DUI in terms of marijuana, either that cop is going to take, and there was a response that in certain cases they could go to a booking station, but realistically in this area, you're going to have to take that driver to a hospital and wait for a blood draw and then wait for the results. We all know that we are already understaffed, that the state police are not at full complement. What's that going to do to their response times when these officers have to go and wait at the hospital for 2 or 3 hours for the processing? And that's just one example. And when you went down with all the different agencies, DDAP, the Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol, what are your thoughts, about legalizing the recreational marijuana? It was the same response. They've not been brought to the table. What is that going to do to their need in funding? But anyway, I'm very passionate about this issue. I could probably talk for a half hour on it alone, but I do. Somebody cut me off because I will just keep talking. So I do want to talk about energy very quickly. Pennsylvania is blessed. We have abundant natural resources underneath our feet. The fact that we should be energy independent is not enough. We should be energy dominant. And our governor keeps proposing all kind of restrictions that just makes the energy industry not want to locate here. And at the PUC hearing, do you know what one of the things we discussed was? That the fact that if things don't change, here in Pennsylvania, we're going to be dealing with rolling brownouts and rolling blackouts. Could you imagine, I don't know about your kids, my oldest is now 20, but I had 3 teenagers in the house. As bad as it is going to be not for them to be able to play video games or watch TV, what's that going to do when it affects your electric heat? What's that going to do when it affects your air conditioning? What is that going to do to our manufacturing businesses that rely on this? And that brings me to another point. Since I've been in office, am I getting cut off? You're good. Okay. Since I've been in office, there have been at least 3 manufacturing units, manufacturers in my district alone that have wanted to expand, but they can't do so because of a grid issue or an infrastructure issue. This is Pennsylvania. The fact that we in Fayette County can't do the much needed economic development and growth and new jobs because there's a lack of available power, it just blows my mind. I have so many more things that I'd like to talk about, but I will politely sit down and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting this.
You sat down and I heard you say sorry. No, don't. Please don't ever say that. The amount of passion that the 3 of you have for the work and the people in this county, don't ever apologize for passion. That's a very good thing, and I love to see it. Go. I wish we had all afternoon because I want to hear them all. So we did say that we were going to have a 2 o'clock close to this, so that does give us a little bit of time. And so I would like to say that we have a little bit of time for questions, and I do have some questions up here. So the main questions I have are actually for the commissioners at this point.
Oh, so you want to give
Second fiddle, huh?
That's why I asked you.
Okay. So it's safe for the moment, maybe not for the whole, maybe not for the rest of the time.
Okay. Well, before I step down, I got to thank Marios, too. I forgot to mention him. He'd never let me live it down if I didn't thank him for coming out here today.
All right. Commissioners.
We're back.
They're thinking, shoo. Well, they're not thinking that. Huh? I know. All right. So on the daily, at the moment, at my office, I'm hearing one conversation. And they know what's coming. Yeah. But I think that I have answered this in many different ways. And I know that let me pause for a second. So one of the things that I appreciate is, this sounds so backwards, just roll with me here. One of the things that I appreciate very, very much is discourse, believe it or not. I've always said that if you go into a room and you try to have a conversation and everybody in the room is in agreement, you have a problem. Because you have to be able to have conversation. You have to be able to hear different opinions. And so one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of discourse about right now in my daily job is, dare I say, the tax increase. Agree? Is it all on your minds? All right. So I've been able to have a lot of conversation with these folks about the tax increase. I know that when I go to pay for things right now in my personal life, I know that things are more expensive. I know how county government works. I know how budgets work. But I also know that in the midst of that conversation at the end of the year, when hard decisions had to be made, the reporting that came out from it wasn't exactly balanced. And so I know that I wanted to give the commissioners an opportunity to talk a little bit about the budget and about the taxes. All of you in this room are business owners or employees of some of our biggest businesses, and I think it's only fair that we have that conversation. So kind of tiptoed into this, but I think it's important that we take this opportunity to hear from the commissioners about that tax increase.
Sorry. Oh, my. And I say sorry to you. In 2016, Fayette County raised about $30 million in revenue from property taxes. When I became county commissioner and we raised the tax rate in 2019 and going into 2020, that was specifically for debt service for the new jail, which had to be built. And no offense to the previous county commissioners, but this board of county commissioners built a new jail in Fayette County. And it had to happen. We were being sued into oblivion, and it had to happen. In 2024, and so that tax increase was not for the general fund. So in 2020, we still raised $30 million for the general fund from taxes. In 2024, we raised $30 million for the general fund from property taxes. I want you to think about that. 2016, 2020, 2024, we did not raise the general fund property tax rate in Fayette County. What happened since then? And I'm getting blasted because I said I would be, I don't want to raise taxes, and I didn't want to raise taxes. What's happened since then? COVID. You know, your electric bill went up at your house. We have 20 buildings. The gas went up it costs more for you to fill up your gas tank. We have 100 cars. And don't quote me on those numbers, by the way. I don't know. But, you know, all those things at a time when people are retiring and people are leaving the workforce, Fayette County never had to fight for labor the way we have in the last 4 years. We just gave our corrections officers a $4 an hour increase because they were being poached by the federal government and the state government. Did it work? Well, we hired about 27 corrections officers in the last 2 months. So we're almost back to our full complement.
And we're saving the overtime at that cost.
Right. Same thing happened with 911 operators. When you hit 911, somebody has to pick up that phone. What was happening was that person picking up that phone, that was his 15th hour on the job consecutively because we could not get people at the rate. So we had to increase them $4 an hour too. We've had to fight for labor, and all these things are coming together at the same time. We have to provide health care to our inmates at the jail. That went up $800,000 last year. You know, these are things that are mandated to our county government that we have to do. So that $30 million from 2016, which funded a $36 million budget, it funded a $42 million budget. My first budget was $42 million. What bridged that gap was getting all of the other fees and things like that. So when you go record a deed or when you register a will and you pay that fee, that went to the general fund to help offset that. We're now at $30 million in property taxes trying to cover $50 million in expenses. We can't do it anymore. It's just not possible. And so we went as long as we could without raising taxes. We went as long as we could. And every year was in October, how are we going to make it through the end of the year? What's going to happen? What's our revenue source from October and November and December that is going to allow us to make payroll? I mean, it was a struggle. We are a poor county. We recognize that. And the last thing we wanted to do was to raise taxes. But that was the only choice that we had. A county is only allowed to raise money 3 ways. We're allowed to charge a reasonable amount for the services that we provide. We can't charge $15,000 to record a deed. Okay, we're allowed to charge a per capita tax, and it's limited. Was it $5 or $10? Something like that. It's $5 or $10. It's like $175,000 a year is what we collect on per capita tax.
And it's hard to collect that, by the way.
Yeah, and the only other revenue source we have is property tax, and that's it. So when it comes time to balance this budget, that was our only option. I'll let you guys go.
Scott's right on the revenue side, no doubt about it. Like he said, we haven't had a general fund tax increase since 2016. That's 9 years. Over that 9-year period, our inflation went up 27% over that 9-year period, because we had to look at each CPI every year. So that in itself put a real strain on our finances. But really, we had extraordinary expenses that I've never seen before in my time as commissioner. So, you have one here and one there over the years, but we had like 5 or 6 major things that blew our expenditures out of the ballpark, and we had to make up for that deficit. We had the Minchinsky lawsuit. That was really something that happened in the 80s. Different board of commissioners, they didn't have liability insurance at the time. And the guy went to prison, and they ended up leaving him out, and then he filed a civil suit. He was asking for $27 million. We had no liability insurance, so it had to come right out of the general fund. We were able to negotiate it down to $12 million, and we even were able to get the state to pay $8 million of it, but we had to pay $4 million. So that came out of county funds and was not covered by an insurance policy. The last portion of that was, this budget, which was $500,000 we had to pay. So that's a major expense. From 2012 to 2015, the commissioners at the time, we have a pension fund in the county. It's a $100 million pension fund, and we have actuary studies done all the time, and it requires us to provide a contribution to that fund to keep it solvent. They did not put a contribution in for 4 consecutive years. So at the time when I was a commissioner in 2011, it was around $800,000. That's grown to $3 million because that $800,000 was not put in for that 4-year period, and other factors, but mainly that. So that was a huge cost additionally that we had to put in to our budget. As Scott said, the prison medical went up $800,000. Even though we bid it out, we only had one bidder, and really nobody does that contracted service across. This company does most of the prisons in Pennsylvania, but you have to pay for the health care of the inmates. That was an $800,000 increase. Our employees' health insurance, we have 620 employees. We had a 5% increase, which wasn't bad, but we pay $12 million in health insurance, so that was a $436,000 increase. This is all in 1 year, all these expenses. Of course, he said about the 911 dispatchers and the prison guards. Those 2 decisions, which we had to make because you have to have somebody answering that phone for 911, you have to have enough prison guards to guard the prisoners at the jail. That was over $1 million that cost us with those $4 an hour upgrades. We had to do it. It was the right decision, but it cost us over $1 million. So, all those extraordinary expenses, plus the fact that, inflation went up 27% in that 9-year period, we had to do it. We had no other choice. We don't spend money, just frugal. We're very frugal. We sign every expenditure that comes in. And that was one thing. Hey, it's easy to say I'm not raising them and not vote for it, but I felt in my heart that I just made decisions on these $4 an hour raises, these all these different contracts for the prison medical, and the fact that we now were contributing to our pension fund. We had to pay the Minchinsky lawsuit. Those are decisions we made. So I felt as a leader I had to, although I didn't want to do it because I've only done it a few times in my career. That's always the last resort, tax increases, but I had no choice. I did it. But if it's any consolation, Fayette County before this was done, just the county taxes. This isn't the school taxes or the local taxes, and it was a 25% increase, not 28, not 29, like you see on social media. I don't know why they keep blowing it up further. A few percent helps there, but we were the 5th lowest taxing county in Pennsylvania before we did this. And 70% of the counties in Pennsylvania have raised taxes the last 2 years. And, after the increase, even with the increase, we still have lower millage rates than Greene, Washington, and Westmoreland counties, even in spite of that. So, it was a tough decision, but we did what we had to do. Thank you.
As you all know, I'm the one who voted against the tax increase. I will agree everything had to be done as far as the wages increased with the COs on the jail staff, the 911, the increase in the health insurance. If any businesses are out there know what the increase in health insurance has been, we've been able to keep that down to about an average of 4.5% to 5% over the last 8 years, really. I brought into the county, when I first got into the office, a health savings account plan, which now our HR has done a great job on getting all the employees on the health savings account plan, which is the reason that we're running at 4.5% to 5%, which is definitely within comparison to other counties and places a much lower percentage. The reason that just like a senator or a legislator, anyone at all is going to look at a budget and they're going to say no is because of some of the things that are in it. And that's the reason that I am that way. I believe that our finances after COVID and the ARPA money that came in, that the only thing you spend money on when you get into a financial situation in your personal life are necessities. Necessities are always there, and that's in the county level. That's the wages, that's the benefits, that's your daily operations, your increases in your services such as IT, and which is huge anymore. Anyone who has to buy IT knows that IT is just through the ceiling anymore because of all the hackers and everything else that's out there, and that's going to continue to be a problem. So you have to protect yourselves, and I knew when I came in office in 2016, we got a phone call that we had no firewalls in the courthouse at the time. And that was one of the first moves we moved toward to get that protection. So it does cost money to do that. And I do know that there was a tax increase needed. It's just that, once again, it's like anyone else. You look at it and you say, what's there? And it just needs work on. So, I'm not saying that it didn't need to happen. It did need to happen. I will say that. It did need to happen. It's just that I think it could have been thinner. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, to be able to express that to the membership and to the businesses that come forward and the individuals on a regular basis. I know you all three are getting kind of beat up over. Kind of probably an understatement. I get that, but I do think because of that, I think it's fair, and I do appreciate your willingness to. I did give them the heads up that I was going to ask that question. I want to be fair, because one of the things, you can stay or you can go. It's up to you. You want to stay? Okay. So, one of the things.
The legislators come up here and put them on the spot.
No question. So one of the things that is so important to us at the Chamber is this. We have an ongoing campaign supported by the commissioners called the Fayette County Public Relations Initiative. And there's a secondary piece to it now called Discover Fayette, and you might see it show up. The primary reason that we have that is because we literally need to work every single day to build pride in place in our community. Because until we're all ready to stand up and say this is the best place in the world to live, to raise a family, to be in business, people are not going to want to come here. We are the salespeople in Fayette County. And why this conversation is so very important is because we are getting the crap beat out of us on social media and on the news stations. We're like the prime example when how many counties raise taxes? Like 70 counties, 70%. So part of the Pride in Place campaign we have is to come back at that and say, we might have needed to do this to pay expenses. And whether it was all in agreement or there was discourse, that's okay. because you do what you have to do to move your county forward, and that's what you've heard everyone talk about today. That Pride in Place campaign is so important, so that we can keep growing as a county and keep bringing, folks into the county and to get businesses to settle here. Am I right, Fiilmed? Fiilmed folks are here, am I right? Got it. We've got to bring businesses, and that's a big part of it. So I do want to thank the commissioners for coming up here and their willingness to. You can talk about Nemacolin for a second, absolutely.
So so first off, there was a WTA
hit piece.
The guy interviewed me. He was not interviewing me about Nemacolin. He hit me with a question at the end about LERTA. And then he said, why would Nemacolin have invested money if they had not had LERTA? I said, I don't know. You have to ask them. I don't work for Nemacolin. But that was not the interview. That was two questions at the end of an interview, and he made that the point. Nemacolin Woodlands is the largest taxpayer in Fayette County. Do they get breaks for LERTA? Yes, they do. Do other companies get breaks for LERTA? Yes, they do. LERTA is done by ordinance. A township says they want it, the school district agrees, and then the county agrees. It is done by ordinance. Our approval at a meeting to give Nemacolin LERTA is a formality. It's already approved in the ordinance. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is,
Can I answer one Nemacolin
Sure.
real quick? Also, you have to remember in Nemacolin, their whole property is not under LERTA. Only projects that they're working on that's upgrading to get a higher tax base in the future is actually what's under LERTA. It's not the whole property. So at any one time, maybe 10, 15, 20% of it could be under LERTA, but the whole property is not. So they're still paying taxes.
Right.
That's just it. They're still paying taxes. And then along with that, because they are one of the largest employers, if not the largest employer in the county, those county residents are also paying taxes. So they're adding to our tax base and adding to our economy that way too.
yeah. So largest employer, again, 1% of those wages are going to Wharton Township and to the school district, being split between the two if they live in Wharton Township. The other thing is they are the largest contributor to the hotel tax in Fayette County, which is then used for a grant program for other tourism entities in that industry. So they are contributing a lot, and we offered to go to bat for them publicly, and they said, hey, never mind, just let it die. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that every county around us has LERTA. The state of West Virginia has it. Every place has a tax abatement program to try to entice existing companies to expand and to bring new companies here. To not have that would just tie our arms behind our back, because nobody's going to come here then.
I think they picked Nemacolin because obviously, it's an upscale place, but everybody in Wharton Township is eligible for LERTA. It's township wide. I've never not approved LERTA because I feel it's a tool for economic development. It helps stimulate growth. I think that program has helped grow our tax base more than anything that we have available in the way of incentives. It does eventually go on the tax rolls, and it spurs growth. And if we weren't using it, we'd be at a disadvantage with other counties and other states.
Yeah, a while back, when Hillary Clinton was the senator of New York, she pushed heavy for any kind of tax breaks and tax benefits for New York, the whole state. Now, I know we're on opposite sides of the aisles, but at the same time, she also knew, like other states across the country, all use these tools to try to entice businesses to come to their area and come to their states. And if we didn't do it, as Commissioner Vasides said, if we did not do that, we would really be going backwards. You know, we have enough problems, and I know Senator Stefano and Grupa and Ryan will all agree with this. When you look at the regulations and the things that are put on businesses continually in the state of Pennsylvania to try to get them here, I had a company, a very large company, specifically tell me why would they even come to Pennsylvania, and it wasn't because of the tax side of it, is because of the regulations. So when you start to look at anything we can do to make sure we can try to entice some businesses here, we do have to do these things. And once again, it is a time element too. Understand that it's a time element. It does go away. It's not a permanent tax break. So it is available for, you know, we're going to get a tax break off of them somewhere down the road. We will get taxes from them. And then the other thing coming up, and I know you're very familiar with this, the NFL draft for 26 is coming next year in Pittsburgh. We're going to get businesses here. This hotel, we hope, is packed. Nemacolin, packed. I mean, these are areas that we need to really take care of our businesses locally from a county side, so that when these events happen, we get more revenue coming in that actually gets then spread out into the community.
Case in point, they don't have enough hotel rooms in Allegheny County to service 700,000 people. The other thing, the best example I can think of LRTA right now is, has anybody been driving down Route 21 lately? Well, that big building you see going up there, Heranix is building, that is a LRTA project. And I don't know if he would have built this 200,000 square foot building and employ 300 more people if he didn't get LRTA. So.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, you can go. Come on.
We're not taking questions from the audience?
No, we won't do that today. I think that was a big question from the audience. Am I wrong? So at Leadership Fayette this morning, when I mentioned that it was Government Day at Leadership Fayette, and so we had a long conversation about government. And one of the last slides I put up is, how can you be a part of government? How can you be of influence? How can you affect government? And I think what you heard today is some very good examples. You need to have those conversations. You need to not be afraid to ask the hard question. I was a little afraid to ask the hard question. You cannot be afraid to ask the questions, because these people that you heard from today are all very passionate about doing their job, and they're very passionate about Fayette County, and they will always answer you. And so I think it's important to be able to have the kind of the real information out there, especially in this situation, so that we can all help share that message as well, because we're kind of getting hit, from the media. And I think that there's a reality that for some reason they look at us down here, sometimes, not all the Pittsburgh stations necessarily, but sometimes they look at us down here, and for whatever reason, we tend to be the whipping boy. Not fair. It's not us. That's not who we are. And so as a county, we need to be able to stand up and insist that they share the correct information. That's what you heard today, the correct information. So, did we all learn something today? Oh, yeah? All right. I do want to say a couple of last things here. I need my notes that I have carried from table to table now. They're over on the other table. Really? It's bad. I've lost my notes. There. Yes, thank you, Pat. They're sitting right in front of me. I want to say how fortunate it is that in my job every day I get to work with so many great people, and I'm not even going to try. I promised Marios I wouldn't do this because I'm like a little worried. But I do want to mention some folks that are very, very strong partners. These are people that we work together with every single day. I mean that, to make change in the county. Our friends from Go Lower Highlands who are here today, there they are up here. Our friends from FayPenn, there's a whole bunch of you here. Our friends from Fayette County Economic Development, Mark's over there. These are people we, like, every single day practically we have meetings with. Andrew and the Redevelopment Authority, every single day. Janet is here from the Workforce Investment Board. People that are very important to the continued work we do in Fayette County, the Private Industry Council. I could go through every table in this room. You all are what makes up this county and makes us work and makes us want to work. And we need the passion that we heard here today from everyone in the room to keep moving this county forward. In closing, I want to say thank you again to Marios for coming in and talking to us a little bit about Salvo strategies and how you fight for the county. I want to thank all of our sponsors who stepped up today to be a part of today's event. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to come here and be a part of what is very healthy and good discourse and conversation. I don't want to call it discourse, it's just good conversation. And I want to thank our the elected officials and the folks from the federal offices. Guys, thank you for coming in. I heard one thing today over and over again from just about every single person that stood up here. And I wrote it down. In fact, I drew a little box around it because I'm a doodler, so I do that. But it's the two words, actually. But the main word was fighting, and the second word was perseverance. And so I want to finish today with a quote. I want to finish, and I want to say that, and this was anonymous, but it says, work hard for what you want because it won't come to you without a fight. You have to be strong and courageous and know that you can do anything you put your mind to. We will build this county. It will be awesome. We are going to fight every day to make that happen. Thank you all for coming today.